Hello, I'm David Clark, and I'd like to present to you my pitch for Post Drivers. Post Drivers is a game where players operate a supercharged mail service vehicle to deliver as many packages as possible within the prompted time limit. The player must race against the clock to complete successful deliveries and avoid crashing so they don't receive a deduction on their time. The player will have a series of packages in their vehicle that must be delivered within the time limit. The player will be presented with a mini-map on the corner of their screen. This mini-map will have a mailbox highlighted for the player to drive towards from their location. They must avoid crashing into NPC vehicles while driving to arrive with the best possible time. Driving off-road and crashing into fences and other various private property items will also result in a time deduction. Once the player arrives to the destination, they'll notice a glowing ring in front of the mailbox. The player will come to a complete stop within the ring and the package will be successfully delivered. When the package is delivered, a new package will be randomly selected for the player to drive towards. Players have the ability of changing their next stop, but they can't change it again after just using the ability. The timer will start counting down when the player takes off. Their goal is to deliver the required amount of packages in order to beat the level at minimum. They can continue to play and see how many packages they can deliver before the timer runs out. The game will keep track of the player's high score to let them know their personal best. If the player hasn't delivered the mandatory amount, they fail and must retry the level again. There are a few antagonizing forces trying to halt the player's progression. The first thing against the player is, of course, traffic. If the player gets into a crash with another vehicle, their time will be docked, making it more difficult to complete the orders on time. NPC vehicles will only respond to the player if a head-on collision is about to happen, in which they'll swerve in an attempt to avoid the player. Otherwise, the NPC vehicles will drive normally. Another force working against the player is unorganized mail. If the player is on one end of the map and gets a delivery that's across the other side of the level, then that could really cut into the player's schedule. This is where the ability to skip an order can help the player deliver an alternate package that's possibly closer to their location. The final and most obvious antagonizing force is time. The timer is always counting down and has the player racing against the clock to get the job done. Small amounts of time will get added onto the clock for each successful delivery made. The player can skip their next delivery if it seems too far. This ability can improve the player's time drastically when used at the correct moments. The player can realize the drive is too far for the amount of time left on the clock. In this case, they use the skip ability in hopes of getting a closer delivery. Also, the player is free to choose what route they think will get them to their destination quicker. Construction could be taking place on the fastest route, and taking the longer route could potentially save them time. Or, if the route is substantially longer, crashing through some cones could end up being more beneficial, depending on the situation the player is facing. Post Drivers will be semi-realistic with the usage of low-poly assets. The game will take place in a suburban neighborhood that is busy enough to cause the player to always be aware of their surroundings. The player can crash into vehicles, houses, and various private property decorations in their yard. The game will be played in 3D perspective and have the option of being played in third-person or first-person view, depending on the player's preference. A similar game to Post Drivers is Paperboy, where players delivered newspapers to houses displayed on a map while riding a bike. However, in Post Drivers, players won't be able to see all the mailboxes at once, as they are delivering packages that are addressed to specific locations. Post Drivers open up an array of possibilities for the player. The delivery schedule is 100% random for the player, so there is no way for them to know the order of the delivery route. A couple risks for the development team is creating a vehicle with easy-to-handle controls, and the creation of the minimap. As students of Full Sail University, we haven't had a project yet where we learn how to code or create controls for vehicles or develop a minimap. How this risk can be mitigated is by doing outside research on racing game development through Udemy or YouTube. Are you fast enough to become the next postal driver? This is David Clark with my pitch, Post Drivers. Thank you for your time.